Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Modern Practice Portal training on documents, templates, and migration. Fantastic to have you here with us this morning. And what we're going to cover today is we're going to cover some of the features of the document library. First of all, creating your own templates and making that work, and we're going to do an example today. Then we're going to talk about documents and structures and how we file into the Modern Practice Portal. And finally, we're going to talk about migration and talk about some different ways we can move files from existing places up to the Modern Practice Portal. So if you have any questions, feel free to type them in the IM window and I'll try and answer them. If you don't, you can wait till the end and we'll unmute everybody and go through questions as normal. So the agenda for today, we're going to start off with templates. And I just dropped my microphone, so that was a bit scary, sorry about that. So we'll start with creating and uploading templates. We're going to look at how end users would use them once you've created them. We're going to look at how we create structures and apply permissions. And finally, we're going to look at migrating data, and hopefully we'll get through all of that this morning. So let's dive straight in and start looking at templates. So I'm going to share my screen for you. And while that just loads, and that should appear. So by now you should be fairly familiar with this screen, being the homepage of the Modern Practice Portal, and hopefully after the first training session, some of you have already gone and made some modifications there. So let's go and play with templates. So as normal, we're going to click on Document Center and dive into the Document Center, and I'm going to show you how we work with it. If you remember from the last training session, we're going to be talking about site content types. So I'm going to go in here. And what I'm going to do is, obviously we've got our Modern Practice templates here. I'm going to create a brand new one just so we can work through the process together. So let's call this the Modern Practice Engagement Letter, a formatted engagement letter. It's a description so people know what it is. We're going to make it part of the Modern Practice, and it's going to be a client document because it's something we send to clients. So when I put it in, I'm going to put this into the Modern Practice group, and I'm going to hit Save. Okay, so that will have created the Modern Practice Engagement Letter. There we go. There's a content type at the moment. If I click on Name, Description, and Group, there it is. So once I've set that up, what I've done now is I've set up a site content type, but I need to go and add it to the document library. So the way I do that is I go into Documents, I click on Library, and then I move to Library Settings. And you see, as I scroll down here on the left, we have the content types. So I'm going to actually add one. I'm going to choose Modern Practice, and you see my engagement letter I added has now appeared. So I'm going to click OK on that one. Right. And you see my Modern Practice engagement letter now exists. Right, there it is. I have name and description, that looks fine. And I have advanced settings. Now in advanced settings, I have the ability to enter the URL of an existing document template or actually edit this template. And what I'm going to do is edit it. So the process for doing these is you edit it, you save it locally, and then you upload it. So I'm going to edit the template. And what's happening in the background is Microsoft Word will be loading. So you just have to let that happen on my machine just for a second. Just double check I've done that. Right, bear with me while Word works its magic. Right, let me click that again. I'm running a little slow this morning. I think it's mainly due to the fact that I'm giving a presentation and using up all my bandwidth. What I'm going to do, I've got Word actually with a huge document open. Here we go. So this has loaded the template. And you see already we picked up those things from the Modern Practice Engagement Letter, which is actually the properties of the client document. But that will do for me. Now what I want to do is I want to put some content in. So let me just create quickly a little document. So I'm going to go and grab Hub 1 logo, and I'm going to put in client engagement letter. Now what I want to do is I want to put in the title of the document, which is up here. And so the way to do that is you insert, choose quick parts, choose document property, and you see I have all my relevant document properties. I have the title, I have the tax year, and I have the client name. So I'm going to put in the title, and that's just the field for the year, and we'll go put in the tax year. So again, insert quick parts, document property, tax year. There it is for, and we're going to go and put in the client name. So there we go. Now these are all different fields. So the title actually comes out of SharePoint. The tax year we created in the last training session, that's a drop down, and the client name is coming out of Workflow Max. What I'm now going to do is I'm going to save it as, and what it's doing in the background is it's actually talking to SharePoint at the moment, but I'm actually going to save this locally. And it's really important to do that with your templates, because your templates won't have data filled in. And if you try and save this without the data filled in, it complains. So let me go and put this in my documents folder. And I'm going to call it Modern Practice Engagement Letter Template. And I'm going to hit save. Right, that's done. Now I'm going to close Word, and I'm going to actually upload that template I just created. So I want to put that in my documents, Modern Practice Engagement Letter Template, and I'm going to hit OK. Now, what it's doing at the moment is it's uploading that template to SharePoint. And getting it all ready. And what you're going to find is when we go into the document library, I can now create a new one of those documents, and it will be ready to prompt me to insert the data. So we'll just let that upload itself. And I'll let that little uploading finish. Here we go. So that's now done. So if I go back to the Document Center, and I go into Documents, and I go New. Right, so my letter of engagement's not appearing. The way I fix that is I go to Library, Library Settings, find the Modern Practice Engagement Letter, which is here. Advanced Settings, that looks good. There's my proper template. Name and description, that looks good. Right, I'll go back. Right, so that should now work. It says it's visible on the new button. Let's go give it a go. Okay, so I'm just going to do a refresh, because obviously I've made quite a big change. So let me just refresh that page. It's all running beautifully slow this morning. Sorry about that. Every now and then the demo gods don't shine on you. So when you're trying to show a process, sometimes things go equally wrong. What I'm just going to do is here we go. All right, brilliant. Back to the Documents library. New document. I can't see it for some reason. Sometimes it takes a little while for this to ripple through SharePoint. So I did one the other day, so I'm going to use one I prepared earlier. So let's go to Letter of Engagement 2. And what that will do is that will actually launch Word for the end user, and that will kick off a Word document based on the template. And when you hit save, the document, the content organizer, which we talked about in the last settings, will save that document over to exactly the right place. So that's how we do templates. And you can do, and yeah, I thought we might have a little problem with my browser this morning. There we go. That's why we're all so slow. I might actually move us to a different one in a second. Just so everybody knows, I'm actually using Windows 8, which is a beta piece of software, so occasionally things don't work as planned. Let's see if that's not there yet. It will be. Okay, so that's how we create templates, and that's how we make them available. And when somebody goes and opens that document, all those fields to fill in will be sitting there. They fill in the fields or choose from the list. The document will populate, and then the content organizer will go and put it in the right place. And what I'll do is, when I'm producing the video for this session today, I'll do some editing and actually put in a working demo for that. So, templates. That's how we put them in, and that's how we use them. The next one is structures. So let me take you through how we do structures. So it's really my view that I don't mind how you structure your documents. I don't mind how you structure your folders. It really is your choice. But one of the things I'd recommend is you do as few top-level folders as possible, so that if people are browsing through the folder tree here, for example, clicking into clients, it becomes really quickly apparent where we want to go. So rather than spending a lot of time doing complex things, it becomes really quickly apparent where we want to move into. And we get the content organizer to do that as well. There's a lot of things we can do with folders. Like a file system, although we've set permissions at the top on the document library, if I actually wanted to change just tools bookkeeping so that just a couple of people could see it, you see that when I hit permissions, it says this folder inherits permissions from its parent. You can stop inheriting permissions, and you can put brand new permissions into that folder. So you can disallow certain accountants or certain members of staff to see things. Those permissions exist in the hierarchy, and as you'll see up here, I'll just go back to documents. You'll see that those permissions exist there, but it also means when people are searching, if they don't have permissions to a file, they won't see it in the search results. So those permissions flow through, and there's an awful lot of work you can do there if you wanted to restrict and make things accessible to people. Obviously, there are going to be some things you're going to want to restrict, but again, try and minimize the amount you do this, because the work you have to do to make it all work can be quite intense if you start setting unique permissions in different areas. So we do recommend you create groups, and then you apply permissions as you move forward. Now, we do know some accounting practices like to put underneath the client the year that they're working in. Again, really easy. I can create a new folder, and I can call it 2012. And there it is. The other things, obviously, I can do with the library is I can actually open this library with Windows Explorer, which allows me to open it as if I was, there we go, as if I was actually opening it using Windows as normal. So you see it's connected, this using Explorer to SharePoint, to the Documents library, to clients, and I can actually navigate this as if I was navigating something in Windows, which allows me to drag and drop files and move them around, which is key for migration. But what I wanted to do was show you a slightly different way to migrate data. So what I'm going to do is just go back to the presentation. So that's folders. We create files and folders. Let me talk about data migration, because it really is surprisingly easy. So I'll just move back to the slide to make sure we're in the right place. So that's structures. And now migration. Now, what we recommend is, although you can open SharePoint folders in Explorer like you can your file server, there's a far better way to get to SharePoint. It's actually a far better user experience. And you'll find when you installed Office 2010, you have a program called SharePoint Workspace. And I'm just going to go and run mine. And mine will come up, and I'll bring it up on the screen. So I have a bunch of sites available here, but what I'm going to do is connect into the Modern Practice portal. The way I do that is I connect to a SharePoint Workspace, and I've actually got access to this one, which is my Modern Practice portal and the Document Center. Of course, you can put in whichever one you want, but I'm going to pop in that one. So what's happening now is SharePoint Workspace is actually synchronizing that site to my computer. And I'm going to let that synchronize, and then I'm going to show just how easy it is to move things around. Right, so let's let that disconnect. I've just had a little warning that I might be having some networking issues this morning, which is why everything's running slow. So do pop an instant message if you can't hear me or things slow down, but I think you're seeing everything we can do. Right, so I'll just let that initialize and go and synchronize. Okay, so open workspace. Yeah, I have an error with that this morning. Isn't that nice? So I'm going to go to one of my other sites, just because I have another site, and I'll show you how it works, because we've been having some fun issues today. So okay, so here's a folder. So what SharePoint Workspace does is it brings you up your folders like you're looking in Explorer. But what's really nice, if I go and create a new folder in here, and I'm just going to call it test. Okay, so here's this test folder. What I'm going to do is, let me just take SharePoint Workspace, and I'm just going to move it across to the side. I'm going to go into my documents, and this could be your file server or anything you wanted. Let me shrink that a little bit too so you can see everything. Let me just go and get, I don't know, just select some files like that, and I'm going to drag and drop them into SharePoint Workspace. And what SharePoint Workspace is now doing is it's going to go off by itself, it's going to synchronize those locally, and then it's going to drizzle them up to the server. So while that's happening, I'm all done. I'm not blocking my machine, I'm not blocking Explorer. I can go and get rid of all of that, and I can carry on doing what I was doing. So SharePoint Workspace is a real fantastic way to do that, and you can see it's already worked out that my files are there, and it's in the process of uploading those in the background up to SharePoint. So it's a really, really nice way to make it work. So that gives you a really good idea of one of the ways we can migrate data. There's another way as well. You may have noticed in the Modern Practice portal there's something called Harmony, and Harmony is an add-on to Outlook. It's also an add-on to your iPad if you want to download that, and that allows me to actually move documents around the same using Outlook the same way I'd be moving them around if I was using SharePoint Designer or I was using Windows Explorer. The nice thing about Harmony is it doesn't just understand documents, it also understands email. So I'm just going to let that load up our SharePoint sites, which it's doing at the moment. And that's just retrieving some information right now. And I'll show you how this works. Right, just let it go. So here I have some junk mail, came from somebody with a consultant looking for a job. So what I'm going to do is I can browse all my folders here, and these are all my customers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new folder called Stuff, and Harmony is letting me do this straight inside Outlook, so it's actually quite nice. And I'm going to take Stuff here, and I'm just going to drop that email in. Now what happens is Harmony's smart enough to know that I have my content types. So it asks me what type of document that is. I'm just going to say it's a document for now. And what it will do is it will upload that email and the attachment directly into SharePoint. So that's now available to me. And I can search within Harmony, and I can go and get all sorts of information. So that'll upload straight from Outlook. And also I can take as well, something I didn't show was if I take my File Explorer as well, so I've got the documents I grabbed earlier, I'll just grab one of them. When Harmony has finished uploading, and again my internet's a little slow today, I can drag and drop files straight out of Explorer, straight out of my server drives, straight into SharePoint using Harmony. So that one's gone in. Harmony understands down at the bottom all those properties. It also understands check-in and check-out. And of course I can just drop that Excel spreadsheet in like this. I'll click OK, and it will take that Excel spreadsheet straight into SharePoint as well, and go and ask me for my content type and any other data I need to associate with it. With email, it also is smart enough to understand when you have two emails that are the same, that are part of a thread, it will add those to SharePoint versioning. So you really don't need to worry about threads and storing that stuff. It will come directly from that. What's nice about that, and just to give you a little idea, because we've got a couple of minutes left, is if I actually want to send that document to somebody in my organization now, if I attach the document, they get a document attached to their email. But it's so much nicer to send a SharePoint link. And we can actually do that straight from here. Right? So I can go, I'm going to create a new email. Here it is. I'm going to show the sidebar. I'm going to go send it to myself. Nick at Hub 1, check this out. And instead of attaching the document internally, I can drag and drop a link. So that means my email's tiny, it gets there really quickly, but all my staff continue to use SharePoint to actually work with that document. Harmony does some other things like searching across the board, and again that's leveraging search within SharePoint. So you can do this on the web, or you can actually make this work directly within Outlook, so people don't have to leave Outlook to work with document management. So hopefully what we've covered today is we've talked about files and folders and structures. We've talked about templates, and we've talked about 3 different ways we can take data from an existing platform and migrate that across to SharePoint Online and to the Modern Practice portal. So what I'm going to do now is, as normal, I'm going to stop the recording and we'll open the session for comments. So thank you so much for coming today. I really appreciate it. I'd really love to get some information from you as well on what other pieces of training you feel you need at this stage. So I'll stop recording now